Hey friends, welcome back to Father Dante's Kitchen. Thank you so much for the great response to the It Is Risen video. So glad to see some of you have actually gone ahead and made that no-knead crusty bread. Thanks for sharing those pictures on Facebook, and if you make it, go ahead and do take pictures and share and let me know how it turns out for you. So today's video is by request of Grace Swinsky, deacon here in the Diocese of Rhode Island, who asked that I could go ahead and make hot cross buns for Good Friday. So here we are, and I'm gonna make some hot cross buns. I will admit to a bit of uneasiness about this because I've never done this before. So we're really gonna learn together on this one. I want to thank everybody out there who sent me recipes for hot cross buns. The recipes they use, heard some great stories about practices and things, and so this recipe is more or less the recipe that the Very Reverend Andrew B. McGowan sent me. Andrew McGowan is the Dean of Berkeley Divinity School at Yale, which happens to be where I went to seminary, and you know, Berkeley's that full service place where even after graduation, seminary deans still help out students, and in things not just about theology, but of the great importance of baking as well. So thank you, Andrew. So here we go, and we're gonna make some hot cross buns. So first thing we're gonna do is we've got 1.5 cups of lukewarm milk here, and I had to do some Googling. Lukewarm is about between like 98 and 105. Degrees Fahrenheit, and so this is now at 100 degrees, so we're going to take that and mix in 3 teaspoons, teaspoons, just making sure I got that right, 3 teaspoons of yeast. Go ahead and then give that a stir that in there, and we're going to let that sit and let that just kind of activate and combine. Sorry, I'm mumbling to myself. That's not helpful for you. All right, so now in this bowl here, I've got 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and to that I am going to add. I want to make sure. Sorry, I'm looking at a sheet here I got with the recipe, so I'm making sure I get that right for you. So to that we're gonna add our salt, and this is, oh no, it's going dark on me. This is, guys, this is going really well so far. 1 teaspoon of salt. We are also gonna add in some, we're gonna add in a 1/4 cup of light brown sugar. And then we're gonna add in our spices. So this is a combination of a couple different things. So this is a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and then the recipe calls for a 1/2 teaspoon of mixed spice, which is something I was not familiar with, so I did a little searching. And mixed spice is kind of like what we put apparently in like pumpkin pie. So I consulted with a couple of other recipes, and so in addition to the 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, this has got a teaspoon of allspice and a teaspoon of nutmeg. There we go, we got our spices. All right, and so I'm gonna go ahead and give that just a stir. Get that in there. Okay, so really, while I'm still giving the yeast another second here to get all activated, fun story about this wooden spoon, which you're either gonna love or be maybe a little creeped out by. So, as some of you know, my dad is in one of the crews that does a parade for Mardi Gras every year. Shout out to the Endymion crew. So last year in 2019, I was able to go with my dad and stepmom down to New Orleans for a few days, mostly to see my dad's parade. And one day we're having lunch on one of the side streets, this little pubby bar sort of place, and we're sitting at the bar having sandwiches for our lunch, and we hear parade coming by, and so it's on this tiny little side street, And this crew comes by with a pickup truck and a banner and just people walking behind. And the theme, they were all dressed as chefs, and they were throwing out, in addition to beads and other things, wooden spoons. And so I 100% got one of the wooden spoons thrown and brought it home and now use it in my kitchen. I thoroughly washed it before using it, but so fun. You know, who knew Mardi Gras could be the place where you can get kitchen supplies? Fun fact. All right, so now to my flour, salt, spice, sugar mixture here. We're going to, and I quote the directions, rub in the fat. Now, maybe you are a more advanced baker than I am. I wasn't sure what that actually meant. So apparently, according to Google, it's a technique in baking when you rub the fat, so in this case butter, and in this case this is 2 ounces, 60 grams of butter, into your flour mixture by hand. So we're gonna go ahead and just, massage away here. Yeah, this isn't weird or kind of awkward at all. This feels kind of funny. But anyways, we're gonna rub in. This probably would have been a good time to tell you the spoon story while I'm doing this instead of you just watching me. Oh, I should probably, yep, Yeah, I always like, so listen, I dance sometimes, and so just do a little dance move as you're doing this, you know, because be joyful, you're baking, and baking is wonderful, and you know, there we go. So, okay, I probably should have looked up when to know I should be done massaging my butter here. Andrew, I'm real sorry. Maybe you should do a video to show these people how to really do this. I gotta be honest. So Andrew McGowan, for those of you who don't know, is Australian, so he's got a great accent. And I kind of imagine him sometimes as the Australian version of Paul Hollywood from the Great British Baking Show. And I feel like he should be standing here right now just silently judging what I'm doing. All right. I'm gonna call that good. Now we're gonna mix in half a cup of, the recipe calls for half a cup of sultanas, which are golden raisins. I didn't have golden raisins, I had regular raisins, and so I'm using regular raisins. So, I'm gonna mix those in. Some of them are a little clumped together, so we're gonna spread those apart. Mix that in, great. Now, we're gonna add in a lightly beaten egg and and then our yeast milk mixture. So there's our lightly beaten egg, and there we go. All right, so here we go. We're gonna now mix in the wet ingredients to your dry. And you're gonna do that till these are all combined. All right, so here's the thing about hot cross buns. So I had known that hot cross buns were a thing around Good Friday. I could not tell you why. I don't know that I'd ever really had a hot cross bun before. I'm sure I have somewhere along the way, you know, but they are not part of my Holy Week tradition, to be sure. So I did a little researching, but then I gotta be honest. Okay, so here's the other part. I always found it curious that people were eating these spiced buns drenched in butter. You know, I mean, Mary Berry has a recipe for these where she talks about how luxurious they are, and I'm like, okay, luxurious spiced buns with icing makes 0 sense to me on Good Friday. Good Friday is a fast day. And so I really wasn't sure what was going on. Well, turns out Wikipedia has a lot to say about this. All right, so I'm gonna call that good, and then we'll get back to Wikipedia in a minute. All right, that's looking all pretty well incorporated and combined. And so now let me get all the goodies off the spoon. want you to know this is exactly how I cook, just normally on my own. I dance, I hum, I talk to myself. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's really fine. All right, so we're going to now cover this with a cloth. We're going to cover this with a cloth, and this is going to sit for 40 minutes or till it has doubled in size. Okay, so while that's starting now, let me say this. Okay, so one of the things that I discovered in my Wikipedia search about these hot cross buns is that it seems deeply rooted in superstition about the magical properties of hot cross buns. And so, when we come back, I'm gonna share with you one list that I found. It's like the top, superstitions with hot cross buns. And so, because while I don't believe in the superstitious magical power of hot cross buns, I think it's fun to know what people throughout history have thought of these things. And so, so there it is. So let your dough kind of rest, let it rise, let it do its thing. And we'll be back in 40 minutes or so to do the next step. So go ahead, mix all your ingredients, maybe make yourself a cup of tea, and we'll see you in a bit. Hey everyone, so it's been about 40 minutes or so that our dough has been resting and improving and rising, and so time for the big reveal. So there we have it. So our dough has definitely risen, it's definitely doubled in size, and now it's time for the next step of the recipe. And so, just get myself squared away here. Sorry, let me just fix, hang on. Gotta make sure I get everything right. So, we've got the oven preheating to 475 degrees Fahrenheit. In parentheses, it says hot. And now it says punch down the dough. So we're gonna punch down the dough here. That's a lot of fun. And we're gonna knead it until it is smooth and elastic. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna knead it a little bit in the bowl just to get it all together. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get it out of my bowl. That's what this is called. It is a bowl. And we're gonna go ahead and knead this until it is smooth and elastic. I'm scrolling down here because I have some notes for you. So I figure it's gonna take a little while, and so we could have a little chat while this is happening here, and we could say some nice things about what we're doing. So I mentioned before that I found some things about hot cross buns. So just to recap, I have not understood this whole hot cross bun Good Friday thing because, well, Good Friday is a fast day. Book of Common Prayer tells us, we have kind of things in the prayer book. There's two real fast days in the church. Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. Now, unlike other traditions in the Episcopal Church, we don't say what anybody has to do for their fast. We don't dictate what that is because it's up to each person to figure out. But fasting is important. So I did a little searching about the hot cross bun, and the history of these things are a bit sketchy. I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of guessing and myths and all sorts of other sundry things. Just feeling maybe a little more, not quite elastic yet. Oh, lost a raisin. So here are, so Smithsonian Magazine actually had an article about the top, it wasn't the top, but it was 5 myths about hot cross buns and what they can do and why we have them. The first myth the Smithsonian Magazine shared about about this recipe is that a 12th century monk was the first person to mark the buns with a cross. The monk apparently baked the buns on Good Friday in honor of upcoming Easter holiday, and soon gained popularity around England as a symbol of the holiday weekend. However, apparently there's a definitive record that the first hot cross buns are not from the 12th century, but from the 16th and 17th, when there's a text that said, "Good Friday comes this month, the old woman runs with one or two a penny hot cross buns." So, yeah, 12th century monk, probably not true, but at least these date to the 16th, 17th century. There's another myth that says if you take one of the buns and hang it in your house, in your kitchen, your bread will always rise and not fail for a whole year, and that you would change them every year on Good Friday because of the symbolism, some say, about how Christ's body did not decay on the cross. And so, but that one makes sense to me, that actually would be a superstition people would have in that time period, because that's a time when you're not going to the bakery, you're not going to the store to get your bread, you're making it at home, and it's such an important element of people's daily life and sustenance that if your bread failed, that could be a real issue for your family. So I can understand why there'd be superstitions around having that or not. There are superstitions around them being used to expel. Oh, I didn't think about that. So my hands are doughy now. I can't change my notes. About expelling bad spirits. That they prevent bad spirits from coming, particularly in your kitchen, and harming your food and your cooking. And there are poems from Irish sources that say your hot cross buns help you with cementing friendship, and so one for you, one for me, throughout the year, good luck will be. And then there are some that saying in the 16th century, Queen Elizabeth I said that these were too special, too powerful with all they had to be at any time other than, Good Friday and burials and like Christmas or something like that. And so then they tried to actually ban them being sold, and so that's when people started making them in their houses. And okay, so bottom line, because I'm not sure how true any of that actually is. Like so many things, this is a recipe that has some origins in various centuries and various times and places. And people tell stories about why you make them and why they're important and what the meaning behind them is. Who knows if whatever it's true or not. But people came together, they baked, and they did whatever they could to try to get that luck to help them and their families. Kind of sounds like maybe some of the family rituals and things that we have today. I know I often have lentils for New Year's because there's an Italian tradition that will bring you luck in the new year. And I don't actually think having lentils for New Year's is going to bring me good luck, but it's just that tradition of doing that. So I'm not going to hang one of these buns in my kitchen for a year because that feels like a bad idea. But it's good to know that there's at least a variety of people who have thought that they make these at this time of year. They make them for the Triduum weekend, the Great Paschal Triduum, to have for Easter, and so we carry on and we make these to have for the days to come. So I'm thinking this dough's feeling pretty good. And now it's time for the next step. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this bowl. I'm gonna grab the baking tray and we'll take to this next step. All right, so we're now gonna divide our dough and get it ready. I've got a rectangular baking sheet here that has been greased. And so we're gonna now take the dough, and the first step in dividing the dough to prepare for shaping it is we're going to divide it into thirds. Now, this is a rich tradition. It's very important you divide this in thirds because it is a reminder to us of the holy and undivided Trinity. Okay, I'm totally making that up. No, I think it's just to help divide things equally. So I'm divided into thirds. And then you're going to take each of these thirds and divide them into into 5 or 6 pieces. Yeah, into 5 or 6 pieces. So I'm really bad, I'm gonna be honest, about taking things in shape. Like you can see, like these are not of equal size. Like these are not, I don't do a good job at this. So I'm gonna trust that there is grace and forgiveness, and that I'm gonna do the best you can, and you know it's all gonna be okay. Okay, so I definitely don't have the number that the recipe said I would, so I'm thinking these are probably bigger than they need to be, but I think I mentioned I've never done this before. I am new to this, so yeah, so we're gonna just see how that goes. So you wanna then kinda, it doesn't say, it just says arrange your buns. So arrange your buns. So I'm just gonna make them in bun-like shape here, or at least what I've seen like in the British baking show, them making buns. And it says they should barely be touching, if at all, when they're in your tin. There is also a note here, kind of depending on the size of your baking containers, you might need to do them in 2 batches, you might need to use 2 different tins. So use what you got, do the best you can. And you know, there we go. Okay, so now, these are all set, and yeah, so now they're set. So now the next piece to do is actually to make the paste for the cross shape on top. And so please go ahead, check your email, I'm gonna actually go get the things to do that. So be right back, and yeah. Okay, so our buns here are set in our tray. In this bag, what I've done is in a bowl, I took a 1/2 cup of flour and a 1/3 cup of water with a teaspoon of cooking oil, mixed it all together and made this paste. And if you don't have piping bags or anything, a plastic like Ziploc bag, and just cut the tip off, and we're gonna go ahead and then do our crosses on the top of our buns. After what was a rather painstaking process, my buns are crossed. 2/3 of them have the icing paste mixture, 1/3 of them is cut. I did see that actually in some recipes, instead of a paste, they do say cutting them is one way that they were done at one point in time, so there's some historical accuracy there. But upon looking at the directions a bit closer, again, after wondering how that failed so miserably, here's the things that I've recognized. When you cut your sandwich bag or your piping bag, make sure it's a really small hole, not a massive one like I did. And instead of trying to do each cross individually, and actually if I'd read the directions fully, it would have, I would have caught on this. Don't try to do each one, do a whole line and then a cross. So, live and learn. So when I make these next year, I'll, know for next time. I'm gonna pop these in the ovens at 475 for 15 minutes. Keep a close eye on them to make sure they don't brown, and we'll see you back here in a few minutes when they're out of the oven. Okay, so our buns have come out of the oven. And I'm going to try to do this without them falling, but you can see they've got some browning on the top. Kind of hard to do. Let me come to you. After all that work, I don't want them on the floor. So you can see they've got some browning on the top. The crosses are effectively non-existent. So, there's a theological baking quandary for you. So the last piece we're going to do is we're actually going to brush them and give them that glaze. So in Andrew McGowan's recipe, he has a mixture using gelatin. I don't use gelatin for a variety of reasons, mostly because I'm a vegetarian and gelatin's not always a vegetarian-friendly product. So Mary Berry to the rescue. And so her recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, caster sugar, granulated sugar. So you're gonna let those dissolve, and then go ahead and brush that mixture onto the buns. note to self, next time, or when you do this at home, probably a good idea to put a baking tray underneath your cooling rack, because all that excess is just going onto my table. So I'll have a little bit of a sticky mess to clean up afterwards. But that's all right. I have to say, I wish you could smell these, because they really do smell quite delicious. Okay, so these are now glazed. They're looking shiny. Let's see if we can get a better look for you. I'm gonna move the camera, so instead of the this, nice and shiny, smell delicious, of varying size and shape, no discernible cross whatsoever. So there you got it. There's our hot cross buns. Now, several of you were very disappointed with the bread that I didn't cut them open and try them. So I'm gonna grab a plate and a knife, and we're gonna give these a try. Okay. So what you didn't see is when I took them out of the tray, the baking tin. One of them, they stuck. They came out really well, except for two. One fell off separately. One stuck to the pan, so I had to pull it out. So I'm gonna use that, the one that got a little bit disformed, and I'm gonna do exactly what Mary Berry does on her video. So she takes it and cuts it and like divides it in half here, and then puts a little butter on it, because you know nothing says hot cross buns and Good Friday like you know, butter. So there we go. There's our, probably could have cooked it a little longer, but that's all right. So we have some butter, steamy, delicious. Here we go. So cheers. Happy Triduum. Happy baking. Blessings, blessings to you on Good Friday. Blessings to you on Maundy Thursday. I do know that Maundy Thursday comes before Good Friday, just so you know. And when that day arrives, may you have a blessed and joyous Easter. Mm.